this is the human-dominated landscape here. This is the transition out here, and that's relative wilderness out there. And in a native forest and a wetland, things are happening all the time. Very dynamic system. Talking about the gypsy moth infestation up on the mountain that wiped out a lot of the oaks. Trees died, the canopy opened up. Similar sorts of things happen in here. The hydrology of this wetland may have been changed a little bit. We tried to keep it pretty much the way it was before the buildings were built, but it may be a little bit wetter because of the stormwater addition to it than before. And raising the water level a little bit may flood and drown some of the trees close to the edge. Then they die and they fall. But all during that process, their habitat for something or a place to feed for something. When they start to die, they get infested with bark beetles and other things that feed on the trees. The birds respond to that. The woodpeckers respond to that. Nuthatches, brown creepers, birds that feed on the trunk, respond to that. When the tree softens up a little bit, a woodpecker may make a hole in it to nest in, feed in. Something else, I was talking to the folks I was walking with about secondary cavity nesters. Black-capped chickadee, tufted titmouse. They don't build their own nest. They use someone else's nest. A downy woodpecker, the smallest woodpecker around here, may make a nest in a tree like that that's dead and use it one year. The next year it might be used by a chickadee or a titmouse. And then when the tree falls down, other things will use it as it gets down on the ground. And when the branches die out from under it and it ends up in contact with the ground, now salamanders will go underneath there and live in a nice moist environment and a well-protected environment, and maybe small mammals will live underneath there. So the forest is a living system and the wetlands are a living system, and dead branches are part of that. So I think part of it is, I recognize that some of you may have grown up in the city or in the suburbs, and having a dynamic system like this is not what's been part of your existence until you moved here. But I'm asking you to take a little time and educate yourselves and learn to appreciate what you have here. As a wildlife biologist by training, I come at it from a very different perspective, and so I'm trying to learn to appreciate the fact that some people just don't like wetlands.
Jeff, if I can for a second, yeah. Right behind you is a tree which has obviously been visited by some nuthatches.
That excavation, that's been done by a large creature. And to me, that looks like that's an ash tree that has died. And that excavation, we found some excavations by what I think is the same bird on our walk. Pileated woodpeckers are the largest woodpecker in this area. They're probably about that big, and they excavate feeding holes, and the feeding holes tend to be rectangular in shape. And we found some of these rectangular holes in some trees on our walk, and they're very deep. They have a beak about that long. And woodpeckers are very interesting. If you were to go online and look up woodpecker anatomy, their tongue is rolled up in the back of their head, and it has a barb on the end of it. And so they can pound into a tree, and then if they get to an inner cavity where beetles may be, they can extend their tongue well beyond the end of their beak, and with this barb, stab a grub, and then pull it back out. So that to me looks like excavations from a pileated woodpecker, and they'll come right down onto the ground. If there's a log laying on the ground, I've seen them on the ground pecking at the log, trying to find food at that level. And if they're around here feeding, they're also around here nesting. They're a year-round resident. listen for what sounds like a very deep drumming sound that starts fast and gets slower. That's this bird that's singing over here is sounds like a house finch, which is a kind of has a reddish cast to it, and they'll be around the buildings here. Yes?
I wanted to ask about what season this would be most active with migratory birds on the
right now.
route.
Right now.
I know sometimes we've had ducks, and I know I see a flyover of geese. I guess they're heading for the pond there someplace.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of migration right now. The short distance migrants, things that are in southern United States and come back to the north, they came back mid-April or so, mid to late April. We're now in the main migratory period for long distance migrants, things that are coming up from Central and South America. So there's all kinds of warblers and vireos, wide variety of things that are making their way through here.
That's a big bird.
That's the aluminum mothhawk.
They're going to do another butterfly release here, Marnic butterfly. Do we really have the habitat for them to survive on this campus? Have you seen any evidence of milkweed?
The main plant for monarchs is common milkweed, and there may be a limited amount of that around here, but I'm not sure that I've seen too much of it.
I campaigned against it last year and cautioned them that they had to be sure to get local marnics and not something shipped in from California, because they don't know the route going down.
Right. Yeah, that's.
And they just say, yeah, there's plenty of milkweed, but I haven't seen any.
No, I think the plantings include some butterfly weed, which is one of the members of that family.
Is that the butterfly bush?
No, butterfly bush is not a native species. Butterfly weed is Asclepius is the genus, tuberosa is the species, but it's the common milkweed, which has a a less conspicuous flower, not an orange flower. It's kind of a pale pink flower that's really the main food for them. And the reason being, monarchs, as you may know, have a high level of alkaloids in them that make them distasteful. And birds learn that when they eat them, they taste terrible, and they won't eat them again. And they get those alkaloids by feeding on common milkweed. Turns out that butterfly weed, which is another of the milkweeds, doesn't have the same high levels of alkaloids, and so they don't tend to favor eating that. Other butterflies will do that, but other butterflies will favor eating butterfly weed, but it doesn't have the same level of alkaloids in it that monarchs favor. So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that, except that if you don't have a lot of milkweed around, doing a release here really isn't.
They die off.
Yeah. Any other questions? Sure.
My next door neighbor was away for about 3 weeks, and she came home, and there's a perfectly formed nest on her balcony, right on the top of her balcony bridge. And it had 4 beautiful baby blue eggs in it. Sure enough, Mother Robin came and sat on it for quite a while. Now there's 4 babies, and she's coming and feeding them. How long do you think they stay in the nest?
Basically, most passerine robins are in the order of birds called Passeriformes, which are the perching birds, and that includes most of the birds that you would see around here, except for the vultures and the ducks. Okay, but most of the smaller birds are passerines. Typically, the nesting cycle is in stages of 12 days to 2 weeks for 3 different events. There's courtship and nest building, which takes 2 weeks. There's 2 weeks of egg laying and incubation, and then there's 2 weeks after they hatch during the during the nestling period before they leave the nest. So once you see young in the nest, you figure you have 10 to 14 days before they're gone. Yes.
I just thought it was kind of humorous that you're telling us to listen for the birds, but I'd say about 85% of people do wear hearing aids.